Hello, listeners and viewers of the eFlight Garden Talks and the eFlight Journal Internet channel. In the year of Corona, we try to bring you close information directly from the makers of electric flight. Today we have Olaf Otto and Qinyin Zhang from Rolls-Royce Electrical, and they will tell us about the transition from Siemens electric aircraft to Rolls-Royce Electrical and from all the future projects where Rolls-Royce is working on. So Olaf, I think you will start. Please let us hear what Rolls-Royce is doing on the electric side.
Yeah, hi Willi, and thanks for inviting us to the Garden Talk. It's really great to be here. So as you said, we've become part of Rolls-Royce and we're fully integrated, and it's great to be part of the team at Rolls-Royce, and very excited to be part of the ongoing journey towards electrification. And we've brought along just a short overview in terms of what we're doing and where we're heading. And maybe if you can go to the second slide in the presentation. Outstanding, yes.
Okay.
Fantastic. So let's move.
Start.
Let's move to the next slide, just to set the scene a little bit. And I know we want to keep this short, but on the next slide here, you can see the markets that we really think are going to be the driving markets going forward in the near future. So the small propeller aircraft market, a segment where you can already buy electrical planes, and the near future will see CS23 certified planes in that space as well. Very exciting, a market where the capacities of batteries is great and is sufficient for a large range of applications by now. eVTOLs and commuter aircraft, those two segments are really going to come in next. eVTOLs obviously something that is broadly covered in all the news. Commuter aircraft has maybe attracted a little bit less attention than it deserves, because what we see is that the commuter aircraft segment really is due for a revitalization, and we believe that electric and hybrid electric propulsion can really help to push this market forward and to bring a revitalization also of potentially of regional airports going forward. So it's a very exciting segment from our point of view. And going to the next slide, for those who maybe don't know what we do at Rolls-Royce Electrical, we are developing the technology for electrical power and propulsion systems, really from a whole system point of view. So what we see here is a focus on the electrical side, so electric machines, controls, energy storage, power electronics and systems. But of course, with all the heritage that exists and all the experience that exists also on the Rolls-Royce side, we also have the power generation part covered. When you look at turbines or auxiliary power units. So we're really able to provide a full system to people in that space and to partners in that space. So what are we doing when it comes to electric and hybrid electric aviation in detail? And there's just a short glimpse on the next slide. So one topic that we're focusing very much on is to bring topics to certification. So this is a picture of the current version of our RP70, 70 kilowatt electric propulsion unit. That is an electrical propulsion unit that is actually in certification concurrently with EASA and the FAA. And we really are pushing this so that we can make it available to the market in the next few years. We've got a great partner with George Bai, who has the motor and the EPU in his plane. I'm very excited to see how that continues going forward. So that's just a short glimpse of the small propeller market. Then if we go to the next slide, we see the plane the e-flyer that's been flying since 2019. Going to the next slide after that. Some additional topics that we're driving, still on the small propeller segment. So driving forward the, so maybe if you go one back to the Excel, this is an exciting program from our side where we're trying to really push the boundaries of what's possible again, trying to break the world records that are currently held with our extra plane by pushing the boundaries a little bit more. And this is a project that has really pushed forward a lot of the system integration and the energy storage topics for us as well. And we're hoping to see that take to the skies in this year, and then provide some new speed records for us. So just to round off the small propeller segment, there's other projects that are going on. One that I just want to briefly mention is the H3PS project, which is a European funded project that we're doing together with Tecnam and Rotax. So this is looking at a slightly different architecture, a parallel hybrid system, trying to see whether you can scale down and use smaller combustion engines but still get the same performance for your plane. So there's a lot of movement, I think, in the whole market for hybrid electric technology. It's not only focused on the single all electric routes. There are different approaches that are being tried, and this is a great technology carrier, I think, to see what the system can do, and we're hoping to see some testing of that system coming up in the short term as well. So going up a little bit in the power classes now, what else are we working on? Going towards the commuter size, so larger sizes of aircraft. Very exciting project is the i5. Now this is a fully serial hybrid system, and the system has already run through a number of lab tests and lab demonstrations. We're currently starting to build out the units that are going to be used then for integration into the aircraft. And if you can change to the next slide, then our viewers will also see what this looks like. So this is very, very great, because it is really going to push again a number of new technologies. It's going to demonstrate silent flight. They were using very slowly rotating propellers to get quiet operations of this aircraft, and we're looking towards having the experimental flights after extended integration and ground testing, probably around 2023 frame. And this has as I said, a fully integrated serial hybrid system using the M250H gas turbine from Rolls-Royce. So long range capability, and very, very interesting aircraft from our point of view. To round it off on the next slide, the project that is probably quite well known, the City Airbus, being powered by our electrical propulsion units. This is in extended flight testing throughout this year. It had its first automatic takeoff and landing flight not long ago, and there's further testing planned down the road. We've learned a lot for us on how to improve and how to best build the propulsion systems going forward. This really serves as a great basis. It's the most powerful eVTOL that is currently in existence and flying, to my best knowledge. So a very, very exciting project. So if we go to the next slide, I think just to round it off, short overview. What are we doing? Some of the things that we're working on. Of course, there's a big raft and an additional variety of projects and topics that we're doing. We can't cover that all now, but I think the core topic is that we can make things fly. We can bring them into the air. I think it's not simple, but there's a good route to building demonstrators. It's of course it's difficult. Aviation is always difficult, but it can be done. The question for us has been in the last year or so whether that's enough, whether it's enough to build the next demonstrator and to show that something can fly. And we really feel that the time to have lots of demonstrators is not coming to a close, but we've done it, and the time now is really to move towards the products, and that's the route that we are really pushing forward towards. So you saw the certification object of the RP70 earlier on, and we have other objects and other programs that are winding their way towards the certification route, because we really see that the market is ready to develop and ready to take off. We can see good concepts that have business cases behind them where all electric and also serial electric planes are going to really work for operators, going to work for customers. So I think the transition that we see in terms of aviation becoming electric is really starting to become a reality. So very exciting years ahead of us.
Thank you, Olaf. And so we close the slideshow. And so, yeah, we heard about very exciting things, and it seems to be that Rolls-Royce is really continuing even with more force than before, as we've seen with the Excel project, with more project than before. What was started at Siemens Electric Aircraft. Our next guest is Qinyin Zhang. He is working on the e-Commuter field, which we heard before is one of the fields where you think it will be one of the first use cases for electric propulsion systems. So Qinyin, please let us know what Rolls-Royce Electrical is doing on the commuter side.
Okay. As you probably know, 2 years ago, we started the O228 electrification project. And then we stopped that project during the transition process to Rolls-Royce. However, all the know-how we developed in that journey, we are benefiting significantly from that experience we gathered, because within that project, we designed the whole system architecture for a commuter electric propulsion system, including our turbo generator and battery systems, and also propulsion system. And currently, with the interaction of our future customers, we really see that all the experience we gathered in the past 2 years put us into a best position to electrify the commuter sector. However, some interesting projects are still not public. I cannot talk too much about them, but they will be announced, I think, in the coming months, so we can discuss it in more detail in the next session.
Okay. Perhaps then you don't have any slides at this point, then I would say perhaps we go to and can continue with some questions which we have on this field. So perhaps Xin, sorry, I did forget to introduce my colleague Xin. He's editor of eFlight Journal, also editor of our Flying China magazine, as there is a lot of electrical activities also going on in China. So perhaps you have a question. I have several, but you're first.
Thank you, Willi. Thank you for the nice, very good presentation of Olaf and the Qinyin. I just have two quick questions. Perhaps the first one is for Olaf. So in the certification of the Rolls-Royce electrical motor system, do you think it'd be necessary to certify different components like inverter and the motor separately, or do you prefer to certify them as a whole, as an electric propulsion unit rather than electric motor?
So it's an interesting question, because we had lots of discussions also with the certifying authorities around it. For us, the core really is the electrical machine and the inverter controller. So that's the core, the smallest object that we believe you can certify, and that's what we're doing under CSE for the RP70. When the really interesting question is going to be when it comes to certifying whole systems. So what part of the remainder of the system sits under the type certificate of the engine, and what becomes TSOs, ETSOs. I think that there's some people that are debating whether, for example, the battery controller also needs to be part of the type certificate. I don't believe that it does. I believe that batteries really are going to be something that are going to be part of TSOs and ETSOs. But I think as projects wind their way through certification, that's something that I think we'll learn about more and we'll see more. Another interesting point is whether we will see more projects going towards type certificating and making the components then available very easily to other projects as well, or whether we're going to see more projects, especially on the eVTOL side, you know, combining everything as part of the vehicle. So I think that's going to be something to watch from an industry point of view.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question there following up this, which is we've heard that just recently one of your kind of competitors, Pipistrel, they achieved not only a certification of an electric aircraft, but also certification of electric propulsion system. So perhaps you can tell us a little bit, what do you think of this, and when do you think, in which time frame you think Rolls-Royce can have or will have a certification as well? As I understand, you're not going exactly for the same sector, but for Part 23 directly.
Right. So I mean, first a huge shout out to the team at Pipistrel and Tina especially. You know, I think they're doing such a fantastic job in terms of really pushing forward the usage of electrical propulsion and in the whole sector of aviation. So I applaud what they've done, and that they've done it with a great you know, with great diligence. What we're doing is we're really looking at a different level. So the certifications that they've done are going to be or are valid, as to my understanding, for everything that sits below CS23. What we're doing is we're certifying our RP70s within the framework of CS23. Using CSE rules, so it's applicable for a slightly different segment. In terms of sorry, you were going to ask a question.
Yes, I was just asking follow up there, like, because we heard that you also think e-Commuters will be the next field. So when we see that the SP70 will be the first motor, what would be the next in line for certification? Would this rather be one for eVTOL, or rather be one for e-Commuter, and which size would it have?
All right. So so first to round off the question earlier. So in terms of certification, we're hoping to be ready from a certification point of view within the next 2 to 3 years with our RP70. So that's the kind of rough time frame that we're working on. Always difficult to give these kind of predictions, especially about the future, but that's what we're heading for. In terms of the next size, And in terms of the next segment, I think this is a really, it's a tied race, if you will. I think I think the race is really on for, you know, for these markets, commuter and eVTOL, to be ready as quickly as possible. I think the fixed wing applications have a slight edge, maybe because you know, that's something that everybody is more familiar with. But there's a lot of money going into eVTOL, so you know that gives that a little bit of a push. We have set up programs to develop propulsion systems in both of these areas to be ready sort of around the middle of this decade, give or take. So that's what we're pushing towards. In terms of size, that's a very good question, because it comes to a point of what do we believe the planes are going to look like in the commuter segment. So are they going to be a retrofit of today, single engine, twin engine, or are we going to see more advanced concepts with possible quadruple engines or even more? There's a strong likelihood that we will see some of the more retrofit applications, and from that point of view, engines in that class will be sitting around the 260 to 300 kilowatt range for a single engine, and that kind of range is what we are going to start pushing towards our partners going forward.
Next question, also still on the commuter side, would be to Qinyin, because I think you also have done analysis before you've done the decision that this is the market where Rolls-Royce is going to. Where are you think are the first markets where we will see such kind of e-commuters operating? What will be the distance? Will it be more fully electric or more hybrid electric? 3 questions.
Okay. Okay, let's start with the market.
I want to know that answer too.
I try my best. Okay. Considering the market, I think it's, as shown in the press, there are 2 countries who are significantly pushing the electrification in aviation with governmental financial resources. That's in the first place, Norway. They want to have zero emission aviation already by 2040. And also in Scotland, they announced similar ambitious plans to push zero emission aviation till around the same timeline.
Oh, I think we have
Now he was going to divulge some secrets, so we had to cut his feed.
Yeah, we have to cut it, yeah. So you have to continue these words.
Well,
speak out.
So I think what Qinyin is pointing out is that there's while the business cases are becoming very, very clear, it's not something that the companies, as companies, are able to fully do ourselves. There's a great collaboration that's needed between the industrial sector and the public sector to make sure that this works, because there's still a lot of R&D and also still quite significant R&T that needs to happen. So and the push to set the regulatory framework is definitely something that helps, and I think that's what Norway and Scotland are really pioneering in terms of doing, and I think we're going to see more countries follow their lead. So I think at the moment, definitely Norway has the edge in terms of thought leadership on that front. I wouldn't be surprised if we see additional countries coming up. From an area point of view, from a sector point of view, I think that there's going to be a lot of push in Germany. Sorry, not in Germany, in Europe, to move this sector forward. And we do see a lot of interest, of course, also in the US. So I think those regions are really battling it out, and we do have a lot of interest coming also from Asia, in particular from China, and I wouldn't be surprised if you know, it's going to be again a race between the three regions. First certifications, I think we will see in Europe and in the US. Going to be an interesting race to see who gets there first in terms of market pickup. US because of its size, definitely interesting. Norway because of its ambition and its vision.
Okay, thank you, Qinyin. You're back in again, so perhaps you can continue where you was cut off before.
Sorry for that. I lost my connection somehow. Yes, I mentioned that due to the significant governmental financial resources put into the research and development, and also on the other hand, due to the geographical characteristics of Norway and Scotland, where in Norway you have a lot of fjords, and in Scotland you have a lot of islands. In both regions, I think in some extent the commuter aircraft will be the most efficient transportation means to connect rural regions with each other, where, for example, cars and high-speed trains cannot do the job. That was the first question. Okay.
Yes. And so, are there any, because we know there is Rolls-Royce, at least as one of the suppliers for the eVTOL Alice project. Are there other manufacturers working on in this field you can disclose at this point with whom Rolls-Royce is working with?
I think I pass this question to Olaf.
So I'm going to give you an evasive answer on that one. so we're discussing with a number of companies, and what I know is that within the next 6 months, I think, not just from our side but also from other sides, we will see more targeted announcement of programs that are heading towards actually developing and building out something that will become a product, rather than things that are simply demonstrators.
Okay.
Yep. If I may, just have a quick question. Speaking of this partnership, so we've seen that Rolls-Royce has been working with OEMs in the small airplanes as well as commuters. So how about eVTOL? Could you disclose if Rolls-Royce has been working with eVTOL OEMs for this kind of collaboration? Yeah, and also, is Rolls-Royce going to consider like there's a large unmanned cargo drones application for its motor?
So I think what is well known is our collaboration with Airbus on the City Airbus Alpha, and I think that's been a very it's been a very good and very fruitful collaboration for both parties. Again, the next step is now going towards really having something that transitions into products. And we are discussing with a number of different parties to see what we believe is actually something where we have the largest synergies, I would say. When it comes to cargo drones, definitely very interesting area. We had some discussions in previous years where people were really looking at the smaller end of the market segment. And that's something that has received a lot of attention, which really sits below the area where we think we can make a significant contribution from a point of view of the electric propulsion system. There's not a definite cutoff where it makes sense, but once you start going far below kind of 30, 40, 50 kilowatts, then it's something where from a point of view of our technology and designs, we may not be bringing the most potential to the table. So really looking at the higher end, and there's a sort of number of ideas I think that are out there. And a lot of people that are building out eVTOL platforms obviously have that in their mind as something that may be even as a short-term objective simpler to achieve rather than having personnel transport. So that's the area where we're going to see the first build-outs as well, I think.
Thank you, Olaf. That's very clear.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up on this one, because
Sure.
you're talking about the small drones. I think talking about the small drones is one thing, but like if you look at or if we look at EASA, they are defining this field where they are responsible, the large drones with 400, 500 or above 500 kilograms, and there I think the SB70 is probably the smallest engine which can be used, because otherwise you would use a lot of these very small engines, and just in combination with this, because there is also a field of unmanned conventional aircraft, especially in China, is explored, and I think this will also probably go electric.
I agree with you there. So I think that's the beauty of having the systems available. So once we have the system built out and once it's certified, then it is ready to use in many different applications. I would say one thing though, that that from a point of view of using an electrical machine in many different applications, there are some characteristics of the electrical machine which do need tailoring to various segments, and that's the reason why we have a small propeller program. We have a program that's looking at the eVTOL area. We have a program that's looking at the commuter area, because there are different characteristics. So there's some tailoring that's needed. What we drive as Rolls-Royce is to ensure that we have the greatest modularity and reusability possible, but at the same time, to take something that as an engine has been designed to lift a 2-ton aircraft on a single engine into the air, might not be the best place designed to lift an eVTOL off the ground and then be switched off, because then a pusher takes over. So slightly different characteristics, and that we have to take into account.
Okay, we talked about energy supply. When we
Sure.
Energy supply, there is one thing is the batteries, and question there would be, is Rolls-Royce there directly working with manufacturers also on chemistry, on certification? And the second one would be on the alternative for batteries, fuel cell, which is a hot topic, especially this year, like EU and a lot of other players, car players. Like I just read a story that a technical director of Hyundai says we think fuel cell is the future and not batteries. And if a very large car manufacturer makes this statement, where are you, or how are you, Rolls-Royce, looking into this field?
So absolutely. I mean, I think Elon will be very upset when he understands that he's been going down the wrong path this whole time. So battery chemistry, no, Rolls-Royce is not involved in designing or developing battery chemistry. I mean, that's a whole different area of skills, and that's a skill set that we're not really intending to build up. We are in extensive discussions with battery and cell manufacturers, and we do test battery and cell chemistries to try and select the ones that make sense for the battery products that we are in the process of developing. And there's some great cell chemistries out there that are really pushing forward what can be done. The question of fuel cells, that's a great area. I mean, certainly since I've been in the field of aviation, it's something that every year people have talked about, and have said they've got this great new design for what is needed for an aircraft as a fuel cell, and it's just ready to go into production, and we haven't seen it yet. So in a sense, it's a little bit like that old trope of the, you know, the fusion is just around the corner kind of thing. Having said that, I think it really is coming to be around the corner now, because we see a number of research and development projects that are achieving excellent results. We are participating in a number of R&D projects with our electrical systems to really make the electrical systems work together with the fuel cells and the power supply in the right way to kind of fine tune that. It's a little bit, from my gut estimate, it's a little bit longer from a certification point of view than the electrical machines that we are putting into certification, and there are significant hurdles still to overcome, especially in the area of weight. But I think it does show a lot of promise, and I hope that we will see a lot of research going into that and research activity going into that in the next few years as well.
Okay, so Xin, you have another additional question, perhaps from the Asian area?
Yeah, sure. Olaf, I think you mentioned that there is quite some interest in from China in regard of this commuter application. So could you disclose anything right now or not?
Yeah. So I'm really sorry. I have to postpone you on that one.
Sure,
again.
Sure. Looking forward.
We don't have the freedom, unfortunately, to talk freely about everything that we're doing. But it's something that we'll, you know, we will start seeing. I think, you know, we all missed the Aero show this year, and then, you know, Oshkosh also didn't happen,
of course.
And I think Sun and Fun also went away. So I think at those places, Farnborough and all those places. So I think you know, we will all together make sure that, you know, we put a cap on COVID, you know, in the next foreseeable future. And then I think we will start seeing throughout the next year, we'll start seeing some interesting announcements in those shows. Definitely what I hear from discussions with partners and with competitors in the area, I think everybody's, you know, ready to take the next step.
Definitely, really looking forward to.
Yeah. Okay, then I would say we also at our set time limit, more or less, let's say close by 10 o'clock. So, and as you say, there are a lot of things you can't tell us at the moment. So I think we will better do a follow-up soon when you have news to tell us as well.
Absolutely, will do.
So thank you very much for today, and perhaps hope to see you soon in a real conference again, like we've done over the last years. This is a year of pause, but perhaps we can travel soon, we hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Willi.
Thank you.
And
Take care.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to everybody watching, and safe landings.
Thank you.